So much attention focused on the climate. Last year, when so many nations, 195 nations, got together in Paris and carved out this exchange to control climate change. Well, it wasn't actually approved. That's one significant point. But ahead of the meeting in Hangzhou today, the two biggest polluters in the world came together, really setting the tone ahead of this important business meeting by agreeing to what was outlined in the Paris Accord. Now, this is important because 55 nations representing 55% of the carbon dioxide that is pumped into the atmosphere, blamed for climate change, they have to approve this before this measure takes place. Well, the fact that the United States and China account for about 40% of the pollution is significant. So the fact that they came together, they signed this ahead of the all-important G20 meeting is really going to set the tone, and it is going to put the pressure on other nations to come to the table and approve this agreement. Now, before today, 23 nations had approved it, but it only represented about 1% of the carbon dioxide that was pumped into the atmosphere. This is going to be significant because China is trying to pump the brakes on its use of fossil fuels and want to reach a limit of carbon dioxide being pumped into the atmosphere by the year 2030. At the same time, the United States is also pledging to sink hundreds of billions of dollars into new energy and also reduce its emissions as well. So, Susan, the fact that they did take this step today is being praised by the UN Secretary General. And he says once they get to the point where this accord is going to be signed formally, takes effect, they're going to have a meeting at the UN. So historic action today.
And it comes at a very important time, you point out, Sean, across the world where temperatures have spiked this year.
Yeah, that's one thing people have focused on so much. We know NASA scientists have already had two important news conferences on this. The first 7 months of 2016, the hottest 7 months ever recorded. Nowhere is that being greater felt than in the Arctic, where I spent about 3 months last year. In fact, July, the hottest month ever recorded on the globe. This is having a dramatic effect on the Arctic ice. It is at the lowest it's ever been, and the melting this year is extremely significant. This is important because basically the Arctic ice acts as an air conditioner for the rest of the world. Now, what's happening as this Arctic ice melts and exposes more ocean, the sun's powerful rays are actually absorbed by the ocean rather than reflected by the white ice sheet. So it kind of feeds on itself and makes it conditions get hotter and hotter and hotter. There you see a weather balloon going up. Some of the information that has been gathered by the scientists up in that area. They've also noticed flecks of black soot on this ice up there as well, Susan. And the more black soot that hits that area, the more the sun's energy is absorbed, the more heating up the area does. It affects not only weather patterns, the jet stream, ocean flows, the environment up in that area, the wildlife. So huge, huge implications. A very significant step today that China and the U.S. leading the way. This has been one of the cornerstones of President Xi's administration trying to get climate change under control. So an important first step.